how it all went south.
Okay, so today's story is about a man named Tatsuya Ichihashi, and he murdered and raped a 22-year-old British woman named Lindsay Ann Hawker. She was an English teacher who is in Japan, and this is the story of him committing the crime and then going on the run or being on the run from authorities. So Hawker was a British woman who was working in Japan teaching English, and it was here that Hawker met Ichihashi after he approached her saying he was her she was his English teacher, and she was not. But he said, "You're an English teacher, right?" And she said, "Yes." And so he kind of started talking his way into getting to know her and was a little bit creepy, but he was very convincing. And he was able to somehow get up into her apartment and talk to her. And then Hawker went missing, and her parents, still back in England, had not heard from her in a while. And so they grew concerned. So authorities were called to her apartment, her place in Tokyo, and when they arrived at her place, they discovered a note in her apartment with this man Ichihashi's address on it. So of course, that's where they went. That's where they headed. So after
And by the way, aren't there like 18 million people, I think, in Tokyo? Like when someone goes missing or someone's on
Right.
the run, like just think about that.
Mhm.
How difficult it would be to find somebody in that many people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so big. You almost can't. Where do you go? Where do you point? How do how do you track crimes?
And a great visual, maybe we can even put this up for the YouTube, but look at an aerial. There's a really good aerial photo of Tokyo that I saw maybe like a year ago, but it truly shows like how big it is and how dense it is. It's just, I just
Yeah.
thought that was, not to interrupt you, but I just thought that was so, if you think about it visually like that, like this person's missing, where do you even start?
And every square block is its own thing, right? Tall
City.
buildings. Yeah, it's a lot. So the police didn't exactly. They did have that note, which is good, which was good for them to be able to go to her apartment, get this note, find this guy's address. So here's what's crazy: they show up at this guy's apartment. It takes him a while to answer the door, but he does. Ichihashi answers the door. He comes out of the apartment, um, and he pushes his way past officers and runs down the stairs, and he's gone. So they have all these police officers, and they don't get the guy. He's gone. He disappears. So they go in the apartment, and they find um, Lindsay Hawker in a bathtub filled with sand and compost soil, which had been mixed with a chemical used to compact and decompose stuff.
Found with what? What was Sam?
Sand.
Oh, sand.
Yeah. So this bathtub is out on his balcony in his apartment, filled with sand and compost soil and a chemical designed to essentially waste her body away. And so he's also shaved all the hair off of her head and placed it in a bag nearby in the apartment. Very, very strange. And they have no idea where this guy is.
Not since he ran past them.
Yeah, I know. And she had been bound and gagged with plastic ties and scarves. And like I said, he had cut her hair off and put it in a plastic bag. So, and the apartment had a really creepy vibe. There was wigs everywhere and kind of all this shit going on. And they found that Hawker had actually written her boyfriend back home in England an email describing how she met this man, and he had approached her during a train ride that she took home from work. And again, he had evaded police that time that had come to the apartment. He was now on the lam, and so he's thinking what to do next. So he goes on this series of he performs a series of painful surgeries on himself to disguise himself. And the first one he does is he bound up his nose with a thread and needle to make it look more narrow, which does not sound like fun, right? Doing that yourself.
No, not at all. Especially this nose, it'd take a lot of thread. It's an expensive fix.
In another one, he tried not once but twice to cut off part of his lower lip to make it look thinner. And it took
Oh,
him 2 attempts. It was so painful. And because he couldn't go back to his apartment, he ends up finishing the job in a public bathroom. So like he's finding, ways to do this while he's on the run, trying to change his appearance. Um, and so he wanders out into the streets of Japan, like you said, very busy place, very like I can hide myself. And he wears a surgical mask, and no one thinks twice about that because it's pollen season in Japan. And so a lot of people are wearing masks in Japan during that time because of the pollen flow. And so he's able to kind of, fit in a little bit, right?
Hmm.
So police had put a reward out for him, and as he stepped by a police station, he saw himself on a wanted poster and panicked. So he decided once again to make a change to his face. He had 2 moles on his face and decided to slice them off with a knife. Do not recommend that, by the way.
Why?
Who does that? Like
Painful?
that's terrible. Right? So he's done all this stuff to himself, and he again is still paranoid with his appearance, and he decides to actually yeah, he's like, I haven't quite fixed it yet. The mole, the lips,
The
the
moles are
nose.
gone.
Yeah. So he actually decides to go to a clinic. He's got a little bit of money in savings, and um he enlists real professionals. And so he wanted his nose, in one case, to be longer and narrower, and in the other, to raise the bridge of his nose. Okay, so he's trying. I don't know what the deal was with the nose that somehow is going to solve anything,
Well,
but
your
he
nose is
doesn't.
a pretty identifying
Yeah,
trait, right?
yeah, but I guess.
I mean, I'm just trying to reason
Oh,
that.
I'm trying to reason too, and so they take a lot of photos of his face while they're looking at his nose, right? And they notice that the moles have been cut off, and so they send the photos to the police, and then they broadcast it everywhere on television. They know that this is the guy, and so he's panicked. He realizes he's now everywhere on television, and so he decides to do something again, and decides that this time he's not going to do plastic surgery, but he buys one of those like beard and mustache and sideburn disguises.
I'm just seeing like the glasses with the big nose and the mustache,
Yeah,
the $4
and
Halloween costume.
right, the thing you can get about
Yeah,
anywhere at a costume
at the
shop. So that's
God,
that's
it's got the big bushy eyebrows on it. Oh
and
man,
yeah, and he is actually eventually apprehended
you
two and
don't
a half
say.
years later after he had escaped that initial apartment where the police showed up. He's apprehended at a ferry terminal in Osaka at the end of 2009.
And you,
Remarkable. Yeah.
yeah. No, I was just
Go ahead.
saying, you wonder what was the point of it? I mean, obviously this guy sounds disturbed. He's got wigs and he's got all kinds of like weird stuff in his apartment. But like, you know, I imagine it sounds like this girl, this young woman was just kind of doing the teaching thing. You do like 3 months or 4 months
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like that, and then because she's got a boyfriend back in England, so it sounds like she was just there doing it. The experience, and
Yeah.
that's a shame.
Yeah. It's terrible. And what's this is really how I got into this story, believe it or not, which is he wrote a book. about what he did those 2.5 years, and admits in the book that he murdered and killed her basically. And um,
He
he
wrote
was
this
sentenced.
after he was arrested.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in 2011, he received a life sentence for the murder of Hawker. And I actually found on IMDb, of all places, that there's a Japanese movie based on his book called I Am Ichihashi, Journal of a Murderer, that came out in 2013, and actually has his name as in the written by credits. Like it's so crazy that there was a movie about this guy's life and how the terrible things he did, and it became a movie.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that about anything, though, that a movie that's
Yeah.
been, based on a true story. I mean, how many movies have been based on Charles Manson?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it's interesting. That's how I look at it. And he's not getting anything out of it. I don't know what the laws in
yeah,
Japan are, but
yeah.
certainly in America, it's not like he's in prison. It's not like you're going to get money.
One last bit that I wanted to share. I don't go too deep on this, but I was reading a piece about how all this plastic surgery to change your identity and everything, and how the technology around facial recognition software, the technology
Yeah,
that
yeah.
says this is my face, it's basically arguing that the facial recognition technology is so good that even if you get plastic surgery these days, you're not going to fool that software. So it's kind of a waste of your time. And I know this crime happened in 2009, but if you're going to try it, you're probably like it's bone structure and
Right.
skull and structural
Yeah.
things. They're
Yeah.
like you're probably not going to fool that software. I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah, it makes you think like, if you get your nose done, all right, or if you get your lips thinned or something like that, you could fool people. But
People.
you're right. I mean, facial recognition software just looks at so even like on your iPhone, it looks
Yeah.
at so many different points on your face, that even if your nose is changed, your jawline or you would have to get everything about your face, right? Reworked, with plastic
Right.
surgery in order to fool that, if
Which
even
is
then.
which is essentially impossible. And then think
Yeah.
about remember we talked about just the cityscape of Tokyo, right? And how busy it is. Think of all the places now that have cameras in Tokyo
Couldn't
that would be
imagine.
able to identify this man, right?
Yeah.
To do facial recognition, either through the government or just you know, bring cameras or whatever.
We're gonna eventually live in under that, that kind of technology. We're almost gonna get into like Minority Report
Right.
territory where
Judge Dredd, Minority Report,
yeah, Total
like your
Recall, those kind of things where
retinal scans as you
yeah,
instead of like keys at your door or like
yeah.
access to anything or like
Yeah, because I think China has really done a lot of I saw something about with their facial recognition software that they have in public places. Like it actually, and I don't know how accurate this was, but it was like it shows people at a crosswalk and it can actually zoom in and a little thing pops up next to them that has like vital information about them.
yeah,
Um, that's wild.
it's happening, right?
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
There will be a time it will be nearly impossible to get away with a crime. You know what I mean? I think. And again, that's like the Minority Report um, line of thinking where there's cameras everywhere
Yeah.
with facial recognition and everything's bio. So you touch your finger to some door to unlock it or whatever it is. It's everywhere. It's connected. Oh, that's your fingerprint. There he is. It's gonna be nearly impossible. I guess that's a good thing,
Well, and think about the listening,
obviously.
like listening devices too, right?
Yeah, all
So
that.
when we think, a lot of times when we're working on these series, we'll use like a vendor that has got like AI transcription and it, like almost in real time. Like this conversation that we're having on Riverside will actually transcribe it immediately once we hang up. And so the ability to almost do real-time transcriptions, listening in a subway stop or, or a airport or anything to be able to understand what people are saying where you don't actually have to be have someone listening, but it could transcribe them in real time using AI, you could
Well,
prevent a crime before it happens.
I mean, it exists in one form. I don't know if Android phones have this or not. They probably do, but the iPhone, if someone calls you and you don't want to take the call, they start leaving a voicemail, it automatically transcribes and it comes up so you can preview and read it as they're leaving the message. So, I
Yeah,
mean, in some context that already
it's true.
exists, but
Well,
yeah,
one more.
if you're on a subway or something like that and they were
Yeah.
listening, you get into privacy issues with that, right?
Oh, you do. I've had to stop myself at the airport sometimes having a confidential conversation that you get used to it, right? Where you think you're only, and you're like, I wonder if someone's listening to this, and you have to push pause a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, things are changing in the world of plastic surgery and criminals. So stay tuned. There will be a day where we will run ourselves out of business, maybe because there will be no crimes in the future. How's that? That'll be our last episode when all the
Right. Yeah.
crimes are gone.
There is no crime left.
I think we have a ways to go, though.
Probably. You're probably right.
All right. That's the episode. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.